Picture this. A quiet Tuesday afternoon at a Target in Los Angeles. Nothing special, just another day. Fluorescent lights humming overhead, shopping carts rattling down aisles, the smell of popcorn drifting from the snack bar. And there, standing in the checkout line wearing faded black jeans and a simple band t-shirt, was Ozzy Osbourne. Yes, the Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness himself, buying batteries and dog food like any regular person. Most people didn't recognize him. The casual clothes helped. He liked it that way sometimes, just being another face in the crowd, away from the cameras and the chaos. But what happened next? Nobody could have predicted it, not even Ozzy. 3 people ahead of him stood a kid, couldn't have been more than 19, maybe 20. Designer sneakers that cost more than most people's rent. A watch that screamed, "My parents have money!" Hair gelled back perfectly, phone in hand, probably worth $1,000, and behind the register, a cashier named Maria. Mid-50s, tired eyes, name tag slightly crooked. She was scanning items slowly, carefully, like each beep of that scanner was another second of a very long day. The rich kid sighed. Loud, dramatic, the kind of sigh that says, "I'm more important than this. Can you go any slower?" He muttered, not even looking up from his phone. Maria didn't respond. She kept scanning. A box of cereal. Beep! A carton of milk. Beep! Her hands trembled slightly, maybe from exhaustion, maybe from holding her tongue. Ozzy noticed. He saw the way her jaw tightened, the way her shoulders tensed. He'd worked enough jobs in his youth to recognize that look, the look of someone swallowing their pride because they need this paycheck. The kid rolled his eyes. Unbelievable. Don't they train you people? You people. Those 2 words hung in the air like poison. The woman behind the rich kid shifted uncomfortably. An older man in line looked down at his feet. And Ozzy? His grip tightened on his shopping basket. But he stayed quiet, watching, waiting. "I have places to be," the kid continued, his voice dripping with entitlement. "Important places. Not that someone like you would understand." Maria's hands stopped. "Just for a second." She took a breath, then continued scanning. "Professional, dignified." But Ozzy saw it. The slight quiver in her lip, the way she blinked a little faster. This woman was a fighter, keeping it together when every fiber of her being probably wanted to explode. The kid grabbed his bags without a thank you, no acknowledgement, no basic human decency. He just walked away, already back on his phone, probably posting something about how his day was totally ruined by slow service. But here's where it gets interesting, because the kid stopped. Right there, maybe 15 feet from the register, he stopped to take a selfie. In Target. A selfie. Because apparently, even grocery shopping needed to be documented for his 70,000 Instagram followers. That's when Ozzy moved. He stepped forward to Maria's register, set down his items, and looked at her directly. Really looked at her, not through her, not past her, but at her. "Rough day?" he asked, his Birmingham accent cutting through the tension. Maria glanced up, surprised someone was speaking to her like a human being. "They're all rough lately," she admitted quietly. Then she noticed something in his eyes. Kindness, maybe. Understanding. "But it's a job, you know. Can't complain too much." "You absolutely can complain," Ozzy said, a slight smile forming. "That kid was a right tosser." Maria let out a small laugh, the first genuine expression Ozzy had seen from her. "I've dealt with worse. You learn to tune it out." She started scanning his items, but her hands were steadier now. Talking to someone kind had given her a moment of peace in what was clearly a nightmare shift. "How long you been working here?" Ozzy asked casually. 14 years, Maria said, and there was pride in her voice despite everything. "Put 2 kids through college with this job. One's a teacher now, the other's in medical school. This register paid for their dreams. 14 years, 2 kids through college, dreams built on minimum wage and maximum dignity." Ozzy felt something stir in his chest. Respect, admiration, maybe anger at a world that lets people like that kid exist, while people like Maria struggle just to be treated with basic respect. But Maria didn't seem bitter. She seemed tired, yes, but not broken. Never broken. "That's incredible," Ozzy said, and he meant it. "Truly, you should be proud." "I am," Maria said softly, "even on days like this." The transaction finished. Maria handed Ozzy his receipt, managing a real smile this time. "Thank you for being kind," she said. "You'd be surprised how rare that is." "More common than you think," Ozzy replied. "Just gotta know where to look." He picked up his bags, but he didn't head for the exit. No, Ozzy had one more stop to make. Because that rich kid, still taking selfies by the seasonal display, probably trying to get the perfect angle to show off his authentic, down-to-earth shopping experience. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and Ozzy, he'd had enough. He walked right up to the kid, stood there waiting for him to notice. The kid finally looked up from his phone, annoyed by the interruption. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone suggesting he very much did not want to help anyone with anything ever. "Yeah, actually," Ozzy said calmly. "You can start by learning some manners." The kid blinked. "Excuse me? That woman at the register," Ozzy continued, his voice steady but firm. "She's a human being. She's got kids, she's got dreams, she's got a life that matters just as much as yours, maybe more, and you treated her like dirt." The kid's face flushed. "Who the hell are you?" Ozzy smiled. Not a friendly smile, the kind of smile that says, "You really don't want to find out." But he didn't need to introduce himself. Not yet. Because this wasn't about who he was. This was about who this kid wasn't. A decent person. "I'm someone who knows what it's like to work those jobs," Ozzy said. "I've been a slaughterhouse worker. I've been a plumber's assistant. I've scrubbed toilets and hauled garbage and done every crappy job you can imagine. And you know what I learned? That every single person deserves respect, especially the ones working hard to make your life easier." The kid scoffed. "Whatever, old man. Go lecture someone else." Ozzy raised an eyebrow. "That's fair. I am old, but at least I'm not cruel." A small crowd had started to gather, people pulling out phones, sensing drama. The kid noticed, and his cocky expression faltered slightly. He was used to being the center of attention, but not like this. Not in a bad way. "Look," the kid said, trying to sound reasonable now. "I had a bad day, okay? I didn't mean anything by it." "Bad day?" Ozzy repeated. "Son, everyone has bad days. That cashier's probably having a terrible day, working a job that doesn't pay enough while dealing with people like you. But she didn't take it out on anyone. She stayed professional. She stayed kind. What's your excuse?" The kid opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. No words came out. For probably the first time in his privileged life, he had nothing to say. The people watching had their phones out now, recording. This was going viral, no question, but Ozzy wasn't thinking about that. "You know what the problem is," Ozzy continued, his voice softer now but no less intense. "People like you think money makes you better, think status makes you special. But at the end of the day, we're all just people. And the measure of a person isn't what they have, it's how they treat others, especially those who can't fight back." The kid looked around at all the cameras pointed at him. His face had gone from cocky to pale to something resembling shame. I didn't think about it that way." "No," Ozzy said. "You didn't think at all. That's the problem." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The crowd waited. The fluorescent lights hummed. Somewhere in the store, a child laughed. And then, something unexpected happened. The kid's shoulders slumped. The armor of arrogance cracked, just a little. "You're right," he said quietly. "I was a jerk. A total jerk." "So what are you going to do about it?" Ozzy asked. The kid looked back toward the registers, where Maria was helping another customer. She hadn't seen any of this confrontation. She was too busy doing her job, being professional, being dignified. The kid took a deep breath, like he was gathering courage for something terrifying. "I'm going to apologize," he said. "Good start," Ozzy nodded. The kid walked back to Maria's register. The crowd followed at a distance, phones still recording. This was better than any reality TV drama. When Maria finished with her customer, the kid stepped forward. She recognized him immediately, her body language tensed, preparing for round 2 of abuse. But instead, the kid did something that clearly shocked her. He looked her in the eyes and said, "I'm sorry. What I said before was inexcusable. You didn't deserve that." Nobody deserves that. I was having a bad day and I took it out on you, and that was wrong. I'm really, truly sorry." Maria stared at him for several seconds, processing. People don't usually apologize to cashiers. They complain to managers about cashiers. They leave bad reviews about cashiers. But they don't apologize to cashiers. This was new territory. Thank you," she finally said, her voice uncertain but genuine. "That means a lot." The kid nodded, then reached into his wallet. He pulled out $200 bills and set them on the counter. "This is for you. Not as a tip or anything, just as an apology. I know it doesn't fix what I said, but maybe it helps a little." Maria's eyes widened. "I can't accept this." "Please," the kid said. "I want you to. You said you've worked here 14 years, put your kids through school. You deserve more than just an apology." For a moment, Maria looked like she might cry. Then she took the money with shaking hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." The kid turned to leave, and that's when he noticed the crowd, the phones, the recording, and standing at the back, watching with approval, was Ozzy. The kid walked over to him, and this time there was no arrogance in his expression, just curiosity. "You really worked all those jobs?" the kid asked. "Slaughterhouse, plumbing, all that?" "Every single one," Ozzy confirmed. "Before I made it in music, I did whatever it took to survive, and those jobs taught me more about life than any amount of fame ever could." The kid processed this. "Can I ask you something? Who are you?" Ozzy smiled, a real smile this time. "Someone who believes people can change. That's all that matters." But someone in the crowd recognized him. "Dude, that's Ozzy Osbourne!" a teenager shouted. "That's the actual Ozzy!" The kid's jaw dropped. The Prince of Darkness himself had just given him the lecture of his life. In Target. Over batteries and dog food. The absurdity of it all must have hit him because he laughed, not a mocking laugh, but a genuine, almost relieved laugh. "I just got life advice from a rock legend in a Target," the kid said, shaking his head. "My friends are never going to believe this." "They will when they see the videos," Ozzy pointed out. "Probably already uploading as we speak." The kid looked at all the phones again, and something changed in his expression. Understanding, maybe. "This is going to be everywhere, isn't it?" "Probably," Ozzy said honestly. "But that's not necessarily a bad thing. People seeing someone own up to their mistakes, apologize, try to make it right. That's powerful. That's the content the world needs." Within hours, the videos were everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit. Every platform had multiple angles of the confrontation and the apology. The comments were savage at first, tearing into the rich kid for his initial behavior. But then, something interesting happened. As people watched the full video, saw the apology, saw the $200, saw genuine remorse, the narrative shifted. "Character development in real time," one comment said. "This is what accountability looks like," said another. "Ozzy Osbourne being the moral compass we didn't know we needed," read a third. The kid, his name was Connor, people figured out quickly, posted his own video later that night. No filter, no editing, just raw honesty. "I messed up today," he said to the camera. "I was disrespectful to someone who didn't deserve it. A stranger called me out, made me see how wrong I was, and I'm grateful for it. To the woman at Target, Maria, I'm sorry again. And to everyone watching this, treat service workers with respect. They're people, just like us, maybe better than us." That video got 12 million views in 24 hours. Maria's life changed too. A GoFundMe started by someone who saw the video raised over $200,000 for her, enough to pay off her house, help her son finish medical school, and actually retire if she wanted to. News outlets interviewed her. She handled it all with the same grace she'd shown at that register. "I don't blame that young man," she told a reporter. We all have bad days. What matters is he learned from it. That's growth. That's beautiful. 3 months later, something remarkable happened. Connor showed up at that same Target, but this time he wasn't shopping, he was volunteering. Every Saturday morning, he spent 4 hours helping customers, carrying groceries for elderly people, making conversation with the cashiers. He'd enrolled in community college and was studying social work. That day changed my life, he told Maria during one of his volunteer shifts. I realized I'd been living in a bubble. I want to do better, be better. You are doing better, Maria assured him. Every day you show up here, you're proving that people can change. And Ozzy? He never made a big deal about any of it. When reporters asked him about the incident, he shrugged it off. I just said what needed to be said. Nothing special. But to Maria, to Connor, to the millions of people who watched those videos, it was special. It was a reminder that kindness matters, that speaking up matters, that one moment of courage can ripple outward in ways you never expect. Sometimes the Prince of Darkness brings the light. The story spread beyond social media. Schools used the video in lessons about empathy. Corporate training programs incorporated it into customer service seminars. It became a case study in how a single interaction can spark massive change. But the most important changes were the personal ones. Connor's Instagram, once filled with designer clothes and expensive cars, now featured pictures from volunteer events, conversations with people from all walks of life, reflections on privilege and responsibility. His follower count actually increased. People respected the transformation. His parents, initially embarrassed by the viral video, eventually told him they were proud of who he was becoming. Maria became an advocate for retail workers' rights, speaking at conferences and pushing for better wages and treatment. That day in Target, she'd often say, reminded me that my voice matters, that standing up for ourselves and each other isn't just okay, it's necessary. And Ozzy kept shopping at that Target, batteries and dog food and whatever else he needed, usually unrecognized in his casual clothes and sunglasses. Occasionally someone would spot him and ask for a photo, which he'd politely take. But mostly he just existed as another person running errands, treating every cashier, every stocker, every person he encountered with the same basic respect he believed everyone deserved. 1 year after the incident, Connor and Maria met for coffee. It had become a monthly tradition, the rich kid and the cashier, an unlikely friendship born from a moment of conflict and growth. They talked about life, dreams, challenges. Connor had been accepted to a university's social work program. Maria's son had graduated medical school and was doing his residency. Do you ever think about that day? Connor asked her. Every day, Maria said. Not because it was traumatic, but because it was transformative. For both of us, I think. Definitely for me, Connor agreed. I was such a jerk. You were young and thoughtless, Maria corrected gently. There's a difference. Jerks don't change. You did. Because someone called me out on it, Connor said. If Ozzy hadn't said something, I probably would have just kept being that person, never questioning it, never growing. That's the power of speaking up, Maria nodded. Most people see bad behavior and stay silent. They don't want to cause a scene, don't want to get involved. But silence enables cruelty. Speaking up, even when it's uncomfortable, that's how we make the world better. They sipped their coffee, watching people pass by outside the window, each person with their own story, their own struggles, their own capacity for both cruelty and kindness. The world kept spinning, indifferent to individual moments. But those moments mattered to the individuals involved. They mattered immensely. I want to do what he did, Connor said suddenly. Not just volunteer on Saturdays, but really make a difference. Call out injustice when I see it. Stand up for people who need someone in their corner. Then do it, Maria encouraged. The world needs more people willing to speak truth, even when it's hard. Connor pulled out his phone and opened his notes app. He'd been writing down thoughts, observations, lessons learned. At the top of his list was a quote he'd found that resonated deeply. "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." He showed it to Maria. She read it and nodded slowly. That's it exactly. That's what Ozzy understood. Staying silent would have been easier, but easier isn't always right. The coffee shop buzzed with activity around them. A businessman complained loudly about his latte being too hot. A mother struggled to quiet her crying baby while people stared. A teenage employee behind the counter looked exhausted, overwhelmed. Connor noticed all of it now in ways he never had before. He saw the humanity in every interaction, the dignity in every struggle. "I should probably get going," Maria said, checking her watch. "Shift starts in an hour." "You're still working at Target?" Connor asked, surprised. "I thought with the GoFundMe money." "I could retire," Maria admitted. "But I like the work, like the people. And honestly, I like being a reminder that retail workers are human beings deserving of respect. Every time someone recognizes me from the video, it starts a conversation. That matters." Connor walked her to her car, and as they said goodbye, he felt overwhelming gratitude. Gratitude for the lesson, for the growth, for the friendship, gratitude even for the public humiliation that sparked it all. Because sometimes the worst moments become the best teachers. That night, Connor posted a 1-year anniversary reflection on his social media. No fancy editing, no strategic hashtags, just honesty. "1 year ago, I was the worst version of myself. Someone called me out, and it changed everything. To everyone working in service industries, thank you. You matter. Your dignity matters. Your humanity matters. I see you now. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure others see you too." The post went viral again, but this time, Connor didn't care about the views or the likes. He cared about the message. He cared about using his platform, however accidentally he'd acquired it, for something meaningful. Ozzy saw the post. He didn't comment or share it, but he smiled. That was growth. That was a human being learning to be better. And in a world that often felt dark, that was everything. So here's the real question. What would you do if you witnessed someone treating a service worker disrespectfully? Would you speak up like Ozzy did? Or would you stay silent and mind your own business? Drop your answer in the comments. I really want to know where you stand on this. Because that's what this story is really about. Not about Ozzy Osbourne or a rich kid or a Target cashier, but about all of us. About the choices we make every single day to either speak up against cruelty or let it slide. About recognizing humanity in everyone we encounter, regardless of their job or status or background. The truth is, we're all one bad day away from being Connor, and we're all surrounded by Mariahs who deserve our respect and kindness. The only question is, which will we choose? And when the moment comes, will we have the courage to speak up? Maybe that's the real lesson here. Not that famous people should use their influence for good, though they should. Not that young people need guidance, though they do. But that every single one of us has the power to make a difference in someone's life with a simple choice: to stay silent or to speak up. What will you choose?